other industries as well, postal, we have telecoms, we have all those things. But now we're just tackling broadcasting. And we'll go straight to the presentation. And by the way, a lot of what I'm going to talk about, Mr. Kumulu had already, gone through a bit during your questions, when he was answering your questions. So the overview of the presentation, we do have the regulatory framework, which I won't take much time to go through since it was already done. We do have the market structure, the compliance status, the compliance parameters, what we look at while, or what we check while we're trying to ascertain your compliance. As I said earlier, Mr. Ikumilu had already gone through this. Maybe just the last bit, where the mandate of the compliance and enforcement department is to ensure compliance by licensees to the license terms and conditions. Market structure. This one had already been gone through as well. The broadcasting signal distributors. These are they carry free to air broadcasters. This is in community. You can also make profit, but that is really not the main reason as to, or the main objective of the station. For free to air commercial, you're actually there doing business, as many of the radios that we see. And then there's community free to air TV. The same applies for the community, by the community, dealing with matters that are, particular to that particular community. And then we do have commercial free to air TV, also for money, for profit. And then we have public free to air radio. These are government radio for public interest. And then we have public free to air TV, which are of course government and for public interest. There's also of course the illegal operators, who we really don't recognize, but since we are the compliance and enforcement department, this is where the enforcement bit is more heavy than compliance. Mr. Kumilo had also touched on this a bit. We have it's three-pronged. There's the financial compliance, the administrative compliance, and the technical operational compliance. 3.5% of your gross turnover. We do have the administrative compliance. This is through submission of mandatory documents. This is the quarterly compliance returns, where you now tell us maybe what you've been doing, what the compliance return form entail. And then also the annual audited financial statements, and the tax compliance certificate, and the shareholding certificate, the CR12. Or the government financial year in January, February, March, that's the third quarter, and the final quarter, the fourth quarter, April, May, and June. And this is where now we need you to be, ends in September. October 15th is the deadline of when you should have submitted your compliance return. Of 80,000 shillings, we take whichever is higher. So if we calculate your 0.4% and it's 50,000, we'll just ask you to pay the 80. But if we calculate and we find it's 120, then you have to give us the 120. And then the USF levy, this is also paid by all broadcasters, so it's 0.5% of your gross turnover. Yeah, all these are calculated from your annual audited accounts, which you submit to us. This is the CR12 showing the shareholding. I think it's supposed to be 30% Kenyan minimum, yeah, and it's not. It should not be older than 3 months. Unaweza kuwa umemaliza kulipa fees, but when we came for inspection, you didn't have the, what is it called, the delayer. So you see the delayer, we can't give you a certificate without you fulfilling the delayer, and also making sure that whatever documents that you're supposed to submit, maybe you submitted everything, but you didn't give us a valid CR12 or tax compliance certificate, so that might derail your June. And then the administrative compliance, it has to be timely submission of quarterly compliance returns. Like we said, the deadline is 15th of the month after the end of the quarter. And then the tax compliance certificate, which said the CR12 and the annual audited accounts in quarterly, every end of the quarter. On the technical parameters, we do check on frequency license conditions. If you're operating a radio station, you're usually given when you're given 88.8, it comes with parameters, yeah, like how far you can be able to, the radius you can be able to cover. and some of the conditions that you need to, where you can maybe put your mast, how tall your mast should be, what power should you be like broadcasting, whatever, all those things. So we check to make sure that you're complying with those, so that to avoid interference, submit your electronic programming guide to the signal distributors. And also you have to submit it to us as well, so that profit. So how do you use your surplus? When you make a profit, how do you do it? Do you inject it back to the station and grow it? Do you inject it into the community and other, activities around the community? Do you support the community around you? We check to see what you're doing with your profit, or are you buying more shambas for yourself? So we have to check and balance that. And then copyright for all third-party content. This is not just Kekobo. Of course, Mr. Kumelu touched on this. This is a mandate that actually lies with the Kenya Copyright Board. We support them as part of the ensuring compliance with this, but it's their mandate. It's not our mandate. But you're also supposed to give contracts with these content providers. It doesn't have to be music that is played by artists. The shows, maybe the pastors that come to preach on your station, or anybody who comes to your station, they're supposed to sign some form of contract so that you protect yourself, and they also protect their content and how their content can be used. So a contract can be like, we'll be able to use this content for just our studio only, or we'll be able to use this on our terrestrial broadcast, and we'll also be able to put it online, or whichever. So the contract has to be specific. So all third-party content, not just music. And the contract, you don't have to pay. It can be just a contract. You're giving me airtime, you're giving me popularity, and you're giving me content. So it doesn't have to be monetary, but it has to be a contract. Approved complaints handling procedure, of course, that is usually checked during the inspection period, where you have to have an approved complaints handling procedure, where you send it to the authority. It is gone through, it's approved quarterly returns, and how are they resolved, how many days did it take you to resolve a particular complaint, and things like that. Log of complaints received, that's the same. You keep a log of all complaints received, because sometimes you might solve a complaint, but the complainant will not be satisfied with your resolution. And it's their right to move to the authority and come and say, yes, I went to Easy FM, I complained about this, they solved it like this, but I don't feel like they did enough. I need them to do more, and then we'll arbitrate. And if we fail to arbitrate to the satisfaction of the complainant, then the complaint can keep escalating. So you keep the log of complaints until that particular on your walls, in the reception, is it maybe on a desk, or is it has to be able to be accessible by the public, or is it on your website? However you want to put it, as long as it's accessible publicly. And then you have to keep a recording of all broadcasted content for at least 1 year. You can keep it for as long as you want, but we require you to keep it for at least 1 year. And in cases where there is a complaint pending on a particular maybe time frame or whatever of that particular content, even if it's past 1 year, you have to keep it as maybe offensive yesterday, or maybe 3 months ago. And then now somebody has raised a complaint. If you keep the logs without the timestamp, you can actually be able to go and edit that particular place where somebody is complaining about that particular cut. And now if you cut it and the content is timestamped, you'll be able to know that this particular content was altered. That's why we need the timestamping. And then the profanity delay mechanism. This is for, of course, those people who air live programming. That is, you talk direct, who are broadcasted. But if it's recorded, we really don't demand that you have it. It's not a requirement, but you can just have it in place. But it's a must for live broadcasting. And you can put it at a minimum. The requirement is a minimum of 7 seconds, which can give you now time to be able to control what goes on air, just in case you have maybe guests. So this is only applicable for the signal broadcast, the self SPCs. This is statistics like the set-top boxes sold. How many subscriptions did you get this year? How many were there last month?